captured by the director of photography, cinematographer Ph.D. Who does a lot of IMAX filmmaking. He did what's the one with Christopher Nolan in the Dunkirk? He did Dunkirk. He shot Dune, and he did a lot of IMAX filmmaking. If you notice, the documentarian was filming on IMAX camera. So I love how the film does. It's like a love letter to filmmaking and film crews, and I love that Jordan Peele wrote that in. He wrote that in deliberately, and I just love that he did that. But going back to the performances, I would love to hear what did you love, or what did you take away from the performances? The subtlety of Daniel Kaluuya, because he had plenty of lines, but he was very subdued. He was very calm. He has this rich, dark skin, and he does a lot with his eyes. He does a lot of great acting with his eyes, to where the other characters are talking around him and behind him, and he's doing so much in the foreground with his eyes and his acting. But I love the levity that his sister M brought to it. I'm just curious if anybody has anything that stood out to them in terms of just the acting. Anything that they loved, that they liked, or they appreciated, or they think they needed anything more, or maybe the acting was terrible, maybe they all were bad. Sure.
I'll go ahead and state, and just extending out to what you said about Jordan Peele's work. I think he's just incredible, and I love how intentional he is about almost every detail of the films that he makes, specifically including what you were saying about the film references, also including very little known Black history, educating his audiences, and going to the acting, the specifics about the nods to high versus low context cultures. So in a lot of predominantly white environments, it's all based on the dialogue and specifically what you say, where there are other cultures where it's about how you respond to that, what are the very subtle nonverbals and how you read the context, and he does a lot of that in his film.
Did anyone know that the first person to ever capture on film was a Black guy runner? I, for one, did not. You knew that? I did not know that. I did not.
I reached over to him when they showed it, and I was about to say, that was the first film ever taken, and it was a Black man on that horse. And then in the actual story, it was discussed. I was like, oh, I didn't have to say anything to him anyway. So he goes so in depth with our history, with our culture, and I appreciate that because, like you said, we're actually centered in the story where that normally doesn't happen. We're kind of the crazy sidekicks who gets killed first.
Right, and that's one of the things I noticed as well, because even though he was scared, he didn't act clownish, if you want to say, and sometimes we do that just to, it goes sort of beyond, and how he acted, I was looking at that, I said, yes, you were scared, you'd be like, oh no, I'm not going there, like, nope, instead of carrying on, and so I liked how that was portrayed.
I appreciate how the characters didn't act unrealistic.
Yes, exactly.
To where that barn scene where how many people were thrown for a loop? They thought they was actually aliens.
Right.
I thought his reaction.
At first, I was like, that would be my first reaction. But those kids really got killed.
Yeah. He's such a masterful screenwriter, and I never would have expected that from someone from Key and Peele who does a sketch comedy shows. I would never expect him to be such as talented of a writer as he is.
I gotta go back and look at his sketches. They're really
smart.
Their skits are good. So now it's worth going back to Key and Peele and really looking at it because you do see some of that in the actual skits, but you just had no idea that you could expand it out into film.
I mean, Key and Peele, that was like a great opportunity for him to like play with a lot of genres and a lot of subjects. So, and all they had to do was make it funny, so they just had fun with it. And yeah, you can tell they're serious filmmakers. They had a lot of, practice, like, doing all that. So, once, Jordan got an opportunity to do his own thing, I can still tell that he had a lot of fun with it. I can see that he takes a lot of, reference from, even like I saw some like anime reference, like shots, and I was he's a nerd, like he's just having fun. So, yeah, that's what I saw.
No, I had to catch it last night just because I knew there was going to be a lot to digest, And on my second viewing, there's so much foreshadowing. Now, has anyone seen Get Out? Has anyone seen? Now, if you've seen that several times, you see it more than once, there's so much foreshadowing in that. It's in the music, it's in like the camera angles, the camera shots. Okay, I don't have to spoil anything because we all just saw the film. But in the very beginning of the film, when Em arrives on the ranch, Jupiter's claim, you see them, they angle up toward the balloon figure, and then there's a lot of foreshadowing that takes place. Is there anything that stuck out to anybody that like, any callbacks? Because he does a lot of great setups and payoffs. With the ribbons, and then when you walk into Jupiter's, they show the decoy horse with the flags, and I just love how he sets things up and he pays it off. Now getting in a little bit deeper, I'm so interested to hear everyone's thoughts on what was the whole thing with the chimp. Because the movie starts with the chimp, with Gordy. What is going on with Gordy? I would love to hear some ideas with what's going on with Gordy. Why did you start the film with Gordy in that shoe, that elusive shoe with a little drop of blood on there?
That standing.
Yes.
Yeah, that standing shoe.
Why did it stand there?
Shoot. I was gonna go somewhere, but I'm kind of thinking like part of it was a wild animal, and people always think they're in control and try to domesticate things, and we can control every environment, and then something will happen at the snap of a hat, and you're not in control, and you realize that before you realize it, it's too late. I don't know how it tied in. I probably got to see it again just to kind of better be able to explain it. But just at first glance, that's my thoughts of why they put that in there.
That kind of ties back to the scene with the horse when you're on set. You have your main character trying to keep control of the horse, but then as soon as everybody starts trying to move along, you have an actual, production crew trying to just make their movie. That's when things go out of control because of this one horse. So that kind of ties in there.
And then it extends to the alien itself. They're trying to control it in a sense too. So I kind of thought that was a theme throughout the whole.
Yeah.
It was about animals, controls, and
Well, and trying to monetize the mess out of anything, right? Trying to capitalize and make money off and commercialize anything. And it went to such extreme degree as this guy who faced such traumatic event in his past is trying to now create a whole theme park around it and a whole room to pay extra, fee for, and now trying to extend that to an alien, and he learned a horrible lesson,
Why did he learn that from the chimp though? That's what's shocking to me. Like, you saw the chimp couldn't be controlled and killed everyone, and you were like, yeah.
But that fist bump,
Animal in the sky.
he thought the
he
fist
thought
bump
he was
was his
special.
friend, right?
Oh,
He
he
thought,
was
he
special.
gets me, so I can control him, unlike everybody else can.
Daniel's character felt that too, though.
Yeah.
He felt he could control the animals. I know how to control
Isn't
them.
that indicative of society though? Like we love monetizing trauma. We love watching the train wreck. Traffic always slows down when there's a car accident. And you're like, what's going on? And as soon as fast cars, everything speeds up. You just look at the Johnny Depp trial. It's like, why are we getting entertainment from someone's trauma? And it's like this kid had a traumatic event, and he looks back, but he built a whole room for it. He said this Dutch couple spent $50,000 and I didn't ask any questions. And it's just and Jordan Peele always has that social commentary. There's always something that not only is he trying to entertain you, but he's also trying to turn your face into it and show us something about ourselves, about society, about the way that we behave and interact with each other. And just for the record, I just want to say it's free form, so if you have any, you can go ahead and just raise a hand or just speak up when you it's like a double dutch. If you find a little space, feel free to jump right in and give your thoughts.
Sure. I kind of thought it was interesting that the antagonist is a weather system, and the themes around garbage, just kind of being, disseminated, and also I thought about the themes of, cowboys, and when my dad grew up, that was his genre when television was new. And until James Baldwin spoke how my father felt that he recognized that he was the Indian. And so cowboys and Indians was television genre from my father's generation, and John Wayne was the person that kind of formed a political party. And so I was thinking about, I couldn't help but think about John Wayne when I was watching this film, and how he shaped culture even in 2022. But also, I thought about the rapture, and just political agendas and things falling from the sky. I mean, it's a commentary on a lot of things allegorically. And I thought it was interesting. It was not my genre at all, but I thought it was very thoughtful and good to talk about.
Any get the hood.
So just extending from that, and that this may seem crude to some, but one of the things I was thinking during the scene where the craft was over the house, I thought of that as eliminating waste. And so thinking that I'm hoping, and I told my friend who's sitting next to me, I was like, I hope people think about this when they decide to go to the bathroom outside. Because this is exactly what we do to everything else on the planet.
Yep.
And then also the concept of what is it that you will leave behind? Like we consume, throw everything else around, and that's what's left.
Half of me is, while I appreciate how deep and thoughtful Jordan Peele makes his movies, I also feel like, why do Black people always have to be the ones to give a message in their movies instead of just making a movie?
Yeah.
I mean, and this isn't a dig against him, but it almost seems like the burden is always on us to educate, to make a statement, to make people think, and that's just that aspect. It's like, why is it always us?
But I appreciate the fact that it was just a simple, that they accentuated the love between siblings. You
I
know,
like
very
that.
rarely
Yeah,
see
that was good.
That was refreshing.
No matter how flawed one of the siblings might be.
They were there for each other, and he was like the horse
horse.
whisperer, which is kind of an antidote to our post-traumatic stress, and I think that it was very interesting to highlight all of that.
But I beg differ in a sense to the fact that we have to, I'm thinking, why not us make that story? Why, instead of making, and don't get me wrong, I used to go to the Madeira thing and laugh and just kind of, but to me after a while there's certain sitcoms that I see and I'm thinking, why do we have to be making a fool of ourselves? That's not how we act in real, I don't care how culturally, as you can tell when I speak, that I'm not, but at the same time, that's not how we normally, that's not how we act. So I don't like to see those movies where, like, we're making a fool of ourselves. So
I mean,
it's okay.
is that the only contrast?
No, well, not really, but I was just giving an example from the fact that why it's okay for us to make a movie to have, send a message. And it's not a bad message.
But it's something to be said that Jordan Peele, he takes the opportunity, because we have so few opportunities to tell the stories we want to tell, to say something, because you don't want to waste an opportunity.
And that speaks to the limitations that we have, that we always feel obligated because we're not centered, right? And so instead of everybody being centered, everybody should have their own space to make whatever, but then again, there's Pootie Tang. And that's a classic. and I love that movie just as much.
I know, I've been talking a bit, so I'm trying to hold back
go
for
ahead.
a second. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I think it's very clear in a lot of his movies that he really honors the horror genre, and he does the Twilight Zone or whatever. I just think he's a nerd who loves sci-fi and horror and wants to make horror movies, but also he's might as well take the time on during Get Out to make some really funny but also direct discussions about racism and stuff. And I don't know, I love both of it. I love how Get Out's scary, but it's also funny, and it's also we should really talk about these things. And so I don't know. So I just think he's a really intelligent man, and he's combining his passions with his platform.
And oftentimes horror film and scary movies are, so stupidly written, or they don't have, much to say. It's just shock and awe and cheap stares,
Yeah, his combined both.
And he let the monkey do that. you know, and it's in the genre, it's probably so many minutes of blood, you know, and you have to tell it. So he hit a couple genres, and horror is not mine, and so I'm surprised, because I would not go to see a horror film unless this opportunity to discuss it, because I get scared.
But it widens the audience, widens the audience.
So go ahead, sir.
Sci-fi works, particularly there were lots of homages in 2001, including the monkey.
Yep.
And there and even the shoe, like the monolith.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
a movie where there's and it's like, in 2001, that's like the birth of civilization. That, just the first scene is like the decay of civilization. It's a city, like with no moral center. And I thought that was a kind of an interesting way of contrasting that.
I was gonna say to your point about the birth of having to include messaging in it. Horror movies also seem to often clumsily, but like include messaging in there about society in one way or another. And also, this is maybe not a deep statement, but I was just thinking while everybody was talking. There's been, there's exciting directors always, and I'm not a cinephile, I can't speak to this one or that one or the other, but this is somebody that's put out like, 2 seasons of Twilight Zone, I think, and these 3 fantastic, to my mind, movies, and it's exciting to be in a time where there's a director who's putting out these movies like this. Right now, what we're all watching, maybe so-and-so had, this era and that era, the other, this is right now, and it's really cool. He's put out 3, super consistent, awesome movies, to my mind. It's exciting to watch.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but every movie has a message, unless it's just completely unintelligible.
Who do you think?
Snakes on a plane.
Selected. That's a great movie.
But the Pootie Tang has a message as well. There's a lot of commentary in Pootie Tang. There's a lot of commentary.
There is comedy.
We should do we'll probably host
We'll
do a post-film discussion for Pootie Tang.
I have 2 comments.
I feel like you're accepting a very conservative framing if you want to see just the movies that stand out as message movies. And John Wick has a message, but you just don't see it against the background of ubiquitous mass shootings.
That's true.
So I was going to say 2 things. One, that in response to what you said, I think, Jordan Peele is so astute, he actually appreciates the impact that Black people have on culture.
Yeah.
And I think the way that he creates film will change it so everybody else does the same. Or it's more likely that they will. So we have good ideas and then we'll step back and okay, go.
Yeah,
I've
do better.
done my work.
Yeah.
The other part was I wanted to speak to Keke Palmer's character in the film.
Yes.
And I did hear you mention about, what was identified as the shortcomings of her character. But one of the things that I loved about it and how he creates film and his influence in the writing of the character development was how multidimensional that she was. Oftentimes, I think that's a commentary on how often or how Black women in particular, of us who are raised in the United States, are perceived by a lot of other people, but there's a lot more there. We're so multidimensional, and I think that was one of the reasons she was like, no, this is my side hustle. These are all of the things that I do. I need you to be aware of that. And then for her to actually have been the hero at the end, she's the one who actually basically saved them as the end result and got the pictures. There was a group effort, but the ones where you can nail down as if this was the largest aspects of the outcome, it was her.
Yeah. Well, she actually saved him in the beginning too, because even though she showed up late, he can't speak in front of people. So that was more the balance of the flaws that they helped each other out.
Yeah.
And that sibling.
Talk about that balance. Back to the balance between the 2 of them, because he could not speak. He couldn't even do a safety briefing, which is something that's pretty straightforward in terms of filmmaking. But yeah, I want to go. One of the things that did not work as well for me, and I'm curious to see if anyone has any, if it resonates with anybody. But the chapters, he broke it down into these chapters with the horse types, with the names, which it's a great way to build and break tension. because this movie is very tense. It's very, very tense. And I think the sound design, the sound crew did an amazing job with the music. Sometimes you couldn't tell if it was the score or if it was sound design. I just loved how they blended that. The sound mixing was impeccable. And they used it really very, very well to build tension and release tension. But the reason it didn't work for me is because why? I just didn't understand why. It's, the first title was Ghost, and the first thing he does, he gets Ghost. And as soon as he comes on, it says Ghost, and then he jumps the fence and he's gone, and you don't even see him anymore. And it's like these chapters, he breaks it into chapters almost in this Tarantino-esque way. And I'm just curious, did that work for anyone else, or did it not work for anyone else? Because for me, I didn't quite need it, but it did help to build release tension.
Yeah, for me, I think it worked because as they were going through the movie, it was really cutting back to his dad and how he talked about all these horses. And like Jean Jacket was a very trainable horse and was going to be used for this big movie. Meanwhile, they kept trying to train Ghost and they just couldn't get him to follow direction. So it was like kind of as the main character was figuring out more and more about this person, it was going through the more and more trainable horses. Like Ghost is just going to go get got because that's what he wants to do. But Lucky, on the other hand, has been, great, trainable his whole life and was able to finish up the movie alive.
And he did name the monster, I'm sorry, he named the monster Jean Jacket, thinking that he was trainable.
Right.
I guess. Okay, thank you for making that connection.
That's what I got from it. It allowed me to, during the time that they broke, it kind of give me a minute to say, okay, let me get refocused again. Because it would build up and it would get so intense, and then you get a pause. And you would have an opportunity to kind of regroup again and say, okay, now here's the next one.
Yeah, that's a good point. I found myself kind of rooting for each horse, This
No,
was on save the day, and each of them had character, and of course, that's allegorical, for us as humans, we each kind of give it, it's interesting.
And there was another point was when he decided that he was going to sacrifice Lucky, but in the end, he was lucky. So he just came out survivable.
I do like the point that you made, and very good points all around, about the how it went back to his father, because you kept seeing him flash back to where the horses, or his dad talking about the horses, and he says, don't look in the eye, and that's when he knew not to look at it in the eye. And then he goes,
gotta see this again.
and he even builds his own, I can't remember the orb, the reflector, I can't remember the name for it, the industry name for it, but it's for visual effects. They use it for visual effects for reference. But he built his own, and when he's talking about Jean Jacket, how Jean Jacket was a very tameable horse, and we can tame this animal. But what does that say? It's to your earlier point, to where it's like we think we can tame. Like some things just can't be tamed. Some things you don't make an agreement. You don't try to tame a predator. You say you got to make an agreement with it. And I loved even as I loved even the documentary. The cinematographer was a documentary, and he's showing predators. And it was like two apex predators eating each other. It was like an anaconda and a Bengal tiger. And they're fighting each other. And as that commentary is happening, it's just that beautiful visual storytelling that Jordan Peele does. And that, like I said, that foreshadowing to where he talks about, instead of just telling you, he'll show you. And he'll foreshadow. It's like, because they say we're the top of the food chain, but you have this extraterrestrial being, and I want to talk about this in a second, this creature, because we haven't even touched on what that thing was. And I've seen it twice, and I still have no clue what that thing is supposed to be. I got my own theories, and everyone's of age, so I can use, okay. He has this, I love that he has this beautiful foreshadowing where he showed the predators, us as the apex predators or the top of the food chain, fighting this other extraterrestrial predator. And it's like, we can tame, man has tamed pretty much every creature, just about every creature. We can hunt whales and we can
Really?
ride
I think so.
ride elephants, and we call it tame, but
Yeah, I got 2 pit bulls at home.
yeah, and he even has the reference to Siegfried, where he was like, ask Siegfried,
Yeah.
ask them if you think you can tame. But to your point, we go back to your point. I love how that is a very good use of the chapter titles and breaking that up and talking about the. Do we want to go to this creature? Do we want to talk about this creature? Okay.
It was like a flying jellyfish or squid thing, and it had intelligence, you know, and I appreciated that it responded to cues like being looked at, and it mirrored. I used to work at a zoo, and I could talk to the keepers about what it was like caring for different animals, and that resonated with me. You know, that he figured out, it's like, don't look it in the eye. And that was one way for it not to see you as a threat or a prey item. So I thought that was cool. That he kind of worked on the psychology of the creature too.
This is minor, but when you first mentioned the foreshadowing, I remembered from the documentary, and he had one of them was an octopus eating crabs, and the creature later, I'm like, oh yeah, that's an octopus. But with all the shape shifting
I've always told my kids that octopus and squid are aliens. And they think I'm crazy. Every time I say it, they should not be eaten. They are an intelligent being. The one at the Seattle Zoo kept escaping from the tank. He broke the alarm system on purpose. He got out.
There are for sure aliens in the deep. We know less about our ocean floor than we,
So in the end, what was it? I mean, what happened to it?
I have an explanation. That's what we were talking about. I have no
It
idea.
turned into a cloud and that's it?
Well, I guess because so what I gathered from watching it at least 2 different times is it can't consume inorganic material, which is why it always spat out, coins and scooters and wheelchairs and all this other stuff. And when it got irritated because he said that the decoy got like stuck in his windpipe. And I love it's such a beautiful mechanic to as well to use electronics as a calling card for when the creature arrives and when it's close. To where the float, what do they call them? The floating, the little car babies that car says, when they would go down and the phones would go out. But I loved how it had the flags. And it was kind of, when he said it was stuck in his windpipe, you would just see the flag. And I just loved how he used that. And then eventually spit that thing out. And it was, that's when you knew it was upset. And after that, it ate people. And that was the first time that it, in the film, when it ate that crowd of people, that we see it eat people, because before it's just eating horses, and then when it started eating people, it went over the house, and it kind of just like I don't all the blood.
It marked its territory.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to also kind of bring it back to the character of the Asian man, and just the theme of him being adopted, and us talking about, training and controlling people and domesticating people. That theme of adoption, kind of runs through that for me. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that he was adopted.
So the fact that, so going back to when we talked about him eating people, I mean him. Right, exactly. So what I saw is that the horse was making a deal, as you said before, they were giving the horses, and the horse did not come out of the glass cage, right? So therefore, what other alternative it had? You see, and that's when it started eating. To me, that's when I saw, because first it was just the horses that they were giving, so you see. So then I was like, okay, then here's the next best thing.
Did it maybe develop the taste for people?
Well, just trying it out, maybe. This is when
I took it as it being upset that it was tricked into eating a fake horse. And it could not digest it, and it was like, you tricked me. Because he was already, because Otis said that he had sold 10 horses at that time. And if you go back, this is the beauty of watching Jordan Peele multiple times. when he goes to make a deal to buy his horses back, you see his reaction like, we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And it's like, those horses are gone, my friend. You're not getting those horses back. So, and he'd been doing this, and he said 6 months. He said 6 months ago, and if you pay attention, his dad died 6 months ago. So that was around the time when this creature came around or showed up. But he had been feeding this horse for at least 6 months. Since his dad died, because once his dad died, the business started going under.
The brother said something about that. He's like, I've been looking at this cloud for
about 6 months. This cloud has been here for about 6 months. So it's around the time when his dad died, the business started to go under. You know, the son is not as communicative as the father is, so he had to sell off some horses. So this guy starts feeding. I don't know what happened. He was like, oh, I was sitting here with my wife and we saw this thing. So he starts feeding it, and
He ate the hikers first, and then that's when the guy saw him. Jude saw him eat the hikers, and then he started feeding him.
Yeah.
Remember, because what dropped from the sky was keys and coins, and horses don't carry keys.
Yeah.
But those 10, at the beginning, there was a news thing. It was like 10 hikers have gone missing. I think that's when Jude saw it for the first time.
Wow.
And then he started feeding it.
Wow. So many clues, man.
That's why you definitely gotta watch this twice.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. See, now you gotta watch it again.
An interesting idea about not looking at it in the eye, having worked at behavior school for 10 years, certainly not wanting to give audience to people who are out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And an enemy of any sort, I think that's good, to not look your enemy in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good wisdom.
What a great callback for Jurassic Park, Who knows if that was actually real because, we went around dinosaurs. But it's like, don't look it in the eye. If you don't look at it, it won't get you.
I think that's one of the best parts about going back to Lucky. Like, even when they said the horse's name in Lucky, I was like, how cliche is that? But I think it really was a way to make it more clear what Jordan Peele was alluding to, in that you can plan only so much, but the rest of it is luck. You can always have a plan, but good luck to you on how the outcome's going to be, especially when you're up against something that's bigger and stronger than you are.
Yeah, there's always going to be something unpredictable, like a guy with a chrome helmet on an electric motorcycle. There's always something in it.
That was like an illusion of death.
What do you think the function of that character was for the story?
To show how stupid humans are.
He reminded me of a reflective wall.
That reflective ball, wow.
That's what I thought too.
The what?
Oh, that orb?
That it was the ball, like the reflective ball from the horse and the movie set.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like that, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't like it at all.
But Daniel's character realized that when he went up and trying to help him, and he's like, oh, no, sorry.
And he had a smiley sticker on his bike, which made me think that he was,
Well, it wasn't smiling.
It wasn't smiling. It was a flat line. But it had the eyes. So do you think that he had knowledge of the fact that he was making himself attractive, or was that just random?
It was weird they set the camera on that thing for so long. I didn't notice a lot of stuff like that. Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
And what a very LA thing to have an electric bike in the desert.
And did the main character put his walkie-talkie with the man on the electric bike who got sucked up?
No,
and then he was able to hear
I
something?
think he still had it. And
Was that his plan though? Because all of a sudden you could hear the information back at the headquarters. And I was wondering, did he plant his walkie-talkie with that guy?
I don't know. I think they all had their walkie-talkies on them, and it was just radio chatter. They're all just kind of talking at once.
But the thing was, even for the professional director, was to get up into the cloud with the camera so that they would have some footage of what it looked like as they were
He was just
going.
obsessive. It's like when you're so obsessive, it's like you'll die for the perfect shot.
But that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
And that was the direction it was gonna go in. So like, okay, so after this, they're gonna go find his camera.
Yeah, I felt like they had enough, like they had the perfect shot at the time.
Yeah, because the creature would spit the camera out eventually, and so that they just had to find the camera and the footage.
Right.
The guy getting eaten, but so it went even further than that, and I was happy about that. The sister got to be hero.
I just wanted to know if anybody thought about this. I'm not sure how long time, but I'm still going back with the slipper that was standing out, and then that cloud. Because it just was in that little space that that slipper was.
Like a barometer or something?
Yeah, it was, and then on top of the cloud, I was just, maybe I just kind of think about things a little bit too much, but I was just wondering.
How was it still?
Yeah,
And the same with the cloud, was it still even on time?
I like what Jim said about the manga, that ode to 2001 Space Odyssey. How it begins with the monolith, and the film more in so many ways begins with that tragedy in the.
Or if that's to think about the shoe, the star in the movie, the Asian gentleman had the shoe in his little museum. So
That's what I'm saying, so why?
So is he the one that kind of transported and brought it back to in this day and age now, because he was a child, and then so he seeing this money, he gets the shoe and puts it in his museum, and now he's the one that maybe was he the key to this thing? I mean, to whatever happened with the monkey, and now it's happening with them.
I mean, I can't figure out anything about the shoe, but he is the character that, that incident happened, but he still almost gave the chimp a fist bump, almost as if he was, or the chimp was still on their side kind of thing, like he was still in control. And he's the one who thought he had control over the UFO. So the point of control does kind of make sense throughout the film. Like that's what I've been thinking about a lot. Even between the siblings, the brother is always trying to control the sister from just like going off, doing her own thing. When there's business discussions, she's just always like, going off track. That's a big thing, controlling each other. The lack of, the fact that the director going off and getting sucked up, that wasn't part of the plan. That was like, it went out of control. It's like he had his own agenda. The TMZ guy showing up. There was a lot of things, I mean, most movies, that's kind of what it is. Like, most people have their own agenda, and that's where the conflict happens. That's what makes the movie go on. But yeah, the idea that, even though there was a plan, Tom mentioned earlier, it can always go off rails. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and specifically with humans, it's also often led by our own arrogance, and that's what leads to our demise.
I mean, it's something we played with a lot throughout the film. They try to show ways that we try to control something, and then you can't control something. With the horse in the beginning during the safety brief, the filming, and then with the ape. And I love that point that you made about him fist bumping the ape, and that's the kind of things like even in the midst of chaos, it's like it's a bloody ape fist, and you're about to fist bump it, but you still think that. Even in the, I'm sure you were scared to death. I certainly would. I would have ran a long time ago, first of all. I would have trusted my legs at that moment and just booked it. Especially after you went out to the older guy. If you don't have one, I'm going there. That's
just
just
to
me.
clarify that point, so oftentimes we talk about fight, flight, freeze, but there's also a fourth F, it's fawning. And when we're terrified, fawning, like you fawn over someone. And it's usually what people often do in really critical interpersonal violence situations. You
Like
do
the Stockholm syndrome.
Yes, you do whatever you can to appease the oppressor. And
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's actually
a good
what happening.
point.
Like, oh, it wants a fist bump, okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I don't know if that afterward he kind of like treasured that moment. He has his own private little museum with the shoe, all that.
But he does it with Jean Jacket later.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like, does he see it more from a positive perspective? Like,
I didn't think about that first. That was
He
the
fawns
one
over
way
Jean
that he
Jacket.
did it.
And even when Jean Jacket starts eating, he doesn't even run. He just sits and he watches. It's like that same freeze or fawn or.
Right.
He definitely didn't fight. He couldn't fight.
So yeah, that's like.
Because he was sitting before the show, just kind of like.
It's like this worked before, let me keep trying to tease whatever you're trying to
It's just, let me just feed him. Let me just feed it.
But it came early too.
Oh, it did. It did come because he was like, oh, I'm mad now.
That's why I think he was really upset that he ate a fake horse. And he was like, I'm ready to eat some people now.
Well, we lived in Alaska and we had safety briefing when we moved up there. And they talk about the moose, the bears, and they show you video of people. There's one video where this guy coming out of McDonald's, there's Moose standing in the walkway, he's got his bag, and he's just like, hey, Moosey, I'm just gonna walk around. The Moose just turns around and just starts kicking his head. Kicking. And the point they were making, and the bear, I don't know if anybody knows the rules behind the bears. Has anybody heard? If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, get down. If it's white, good night. Good night.
Okay, I'll remember those.
I really like the music.
Yes.
And I appreciated the music.
Yes.
It was fun. I found it to be fun.
I love, so that's another point I wanted to go back to. Thank you for bringing that up. I love his use, Jordan Peele is always impeccable about his use in music, whether it's throughout the film or in the marketing. He's very intentional about the music he uses.
It was good, but there was one part that was making me mad with the music.
Now the Shades at Night was just like so
glaring,
and I could not ignore it because if you know the song, but it's like this creature is stalking them at night.
What I don't like about that is he makes already creepy songs creepy.
Yes.
It's gonna spark a new trend where they're gonna start playing that song more often like they did. I Got Five on. I already didn't like that song. It freaks me the F out.
I can't listen to I Got Five on anymore.
I can't.
Because of Get Out, I just can't.
That one wasn't
Us, yeah, it was Us. Yeah, I Got Five on. It's like, I can't listen to this song.
There was like a chase scene, and it was picking up, but it came off to me as too, like the music was too.
What was the song? Was it?
I can't. It was the.
It was the score.
It was the score.
Gotcha. That was like more upbeat.
Yeah, and I was just like,
it didn't seem like
it
it
didn't
fit
match.
at that time. Yeah,
And I was like, this is
It's fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate they were playing with it.
Because before it switched to that, it was more ominous music.
Very
it was
dark.
dark, and then it switched to that like upbeat. It was like,
Yeah, but was it the one that became upbeat, but there's like this country angle to it?
That's what I heard.
And
It went from like horror to adventure to country and then back.
So
It would like mix it
yeah,
out.
it almost came out to me as like horror to like black old time musical kind of thing. And I was like, stop it! Stop!
Do you think that's a way to subvert expectations almost?
I don't know, but it was making me mad. I like very much.
So yes, I love the music. What did you think about the visuals now? I've done night shoots before. I worked on film sets. Night shoots are brutal. I hate night shoots because the thing about daytime, you can tell when the day changes, given where the sun is. So if we have a shoot that's supposed to take place in the daytime, when it starts getting darker, you can't do it because you're losing sunlight. With nighttime just looks like nighttime. Whether it's 10 at night or 5 in the morning, it doesn't make a difference, and the crew's gonna be out there until we're done filming. But I loved how they shot, especially dark-skinned characters at nighttime, and how they used the light, and how they directed the eye every time you look up. Every time the camera would go up, I'm getting tense. I'm having anxiety. Like, what am I looking at? Where is it at? Where are you going? Because I saw it last night, and I highly recommend you see it on the largest screen possible. Now, the Grand is a beautiful theater, and we have great screens here, great projection team. But I highly recommend you watch it on an IMAX screen, XD. They call it LIMAX or IMAX. If it's not IMAX, it's LIMAX. But like Point Rustin or I think Gig Harbor is IMAX. I highly recommend you see it on the biggest screen possible because when they pan up, you are searching the skies, especially earlier in the film before you get to even see what this thing is. And I just loved how they did that, how they guided the audience, even very early on, where you're just looking around, and it's just great. It built so much tension, and it gave me so much anxiety. It should make me happy, but I love movies. But it made me so happy as an audience, as a viewer, seeing how they directed the eye, and what was the scene where when it grabbed? I think it was. I want to say is it Ghost? Because you see in the back, what's the character's name? the cowboy, I can't remember the character's name. Jupiter, yes, thank you. The first time the lights go out and he sees the thing, he's actually doing a show then. If you listen carefully, you say, oh, last night, and then the lights go out, and then you see the, and then it goes off, and then it's like, you look up, and I was like, what am I looking at? Where's that? Oh my gosh, and then you see that. And I just loved how they filmed that. Even in the chase scenes, I don't know how I have no idea how they filmed it, where like someone's running or sprinting or on a horse or
I feel like it was a drone.
sometimes they, what they have, I'm forgetting all the terminology now, but the cars, you ever see the cars with the cranes on it? The cars with the cranes, they'll film with that. And I don't know how they got the shot so many times of the character in the foreground and then the sky in the background with this thing. It's just beautiful work, awesome work. Okay, now I just want to go to the end. Before we end, I just kind of want to go around because I am an eternal optimist. I love a happy ending. I love a good story. But I can't help but think that the brother at the very end did make it. And I'm curious if you think he made it or if you think he did not make it. And why do you think so?
Well, so one of the things that Jordan often does is the way that he ends film, it's not necessarily always clear what happened.
Yeah.
So at the end, and I think you did raise your hand when he asked about Get Out, there's also an alternate ending. So you didn't know exactly what the outcome was going to be. I actually refused to watch it for over a year. Like, I can't. And once somebody told me what it was, I was like, nope, I like the ending, I'm sticking with that. But with this one, you just like a lot of shows, like the end of Sopranos, it's over. Like you don't,
which one?
like the end of Sopranos.
Oh, Sopranos,
like
yes.
it wakes
Oh,
up,
yeah.
you don't know what happened after that. So is that what you're alluding to? Like you saw him, but that doesn't mean he survived.
Well, I want to hear what everyone else thinks before I explain why I think that.
You're alluding to?
Was that?
Is that the scene that you're alluding to?
Yes, when she sees the brother, she smiles with all the press and the paparazzi behind her, and she smiles, and she sees, I don't want to spoil it, but when she sees it, and did you even see the sign that he's under? That's what gave it away from me. I'm like, get out yonder. And it's like, it broke my heart, so I'm like, oh,
and they really kind of emphasize that sign at that point too. Yeah, because before you would see it, but it wasn't too much focus.
Wow.
Say again, sir?
They didn't pull it out of space or anything, right? So it didn't even occur to me for a second that he had survived. So all this is.
And maybe it was the scene with his dad on the horse. The horse is walking and his dad's just dead on the horse, or like dying on the horse.
Oh, that's a good point.
It was a very Game of Thrones type of thing.
My first viewing, I was excited because I believed he had made it. Yeah. But then upon thinking about it, and I didn't catch the sign the first time. The second time it says, out yonder. We say that sweet by and by, out yonder. And I was just like, oh, he's done. Because you don't really see, it's like a little bit of dust, it's really dusty, you don't really get a clear.
You really see it's like silhouette in his jacket.
You see him on the horse, and I think it's like a moment of solace that we won, we fight, it's over.
Why are you ruining it for me?
Two things to me is that if you look at her face, she was smiling at it like it got sad.
Yeah.
You know, and then the sign says up yonder, and I thought, oh, he's gone. But then again, when the way they showed the movie at first, remember it seemed like the horse was backing up, and then it seemed like the thing was following her. So then it's like it could go either way, But then at the end, it could go either way, but at the same time.
Because you don't see him, you don't see any tornado, you don't see anything.
No.
You were gonna say something?
Well, what I noticed at that time, because I didn't think about this until you said it, and I was also feeling sad about it, but I saw the paparazzi, and she looked happy, and I took it as like, oh, she's getting the fame or whatever she was chasing. And then when they showed him on the horse, I didn't see the paparazzi anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he is like a vision there or something.
It was the noise.
That's the part that confused me. Sorry.
No, just saying you didn't see the paparazzi, but what else? You was hearing like the noise, like if they were there.
I want him to make it,
Which is
but
true,
that callback, it would cheapen the callback to that if he does survive, because it's like he knows he's done. he's like sacrificing himself, and he's doing that last, I see, but he does it twice, which I thought was very interesting. I'm so sorry. I was excited too. I was really excited. I saw it the second time. But yes. So, any final thoughts? Anything?
The only reason I didn't think that it kind of ate him up in that moment, because it was just kind of, showing its skills or whatever it was you're trying to scare before it attacks, and you didn't necessarily see it like grab him or do anything, kind of like it did with the big blimp, where you saw it swallow it up, and then it kind of changed back to the saucer, and you see it stuck. You didn't see that. You just saw it kind of turn around and start going after the sister. So that's why I think
He left it very
yeah,
open, right?
that's why I think he might not have been in that. And the sister kind of, it went far away so she can go and then, all right, follow me now, and then go this way. I don't know.
I was like, do I need to stay till the end of the credits?
Yeah,
I thought, I was on the positive side, I thought he survived.
Yeah, that's the only reason I think he did it was that Al Younger just sold it for me.
Yeah. And they didn't embrace.
Yeah.
He didn't get down off of his horse and embrace her. Then I would have believed that he was still alive.
Yeah.
But no.
I will say this, maybe I should just leave this. Never mind. Okay. Because everyone's of age, so I couldn't help it. Maybe I'm just a weird person, but which could still be the case after I say this. But I kept going back to the creature, and it kept showing that image like from the inside. The movie kind of starts with from the inside. It's like that cavernous. I don't know what it is.
Jonah, the whale.
Yeah, it's like this whale thing, and then that one show when it eats the crowd of people, you see it like digesting, and what an eerie thing, like hear people screaming as it's flying around you, like, oh, how eerie is that? Like he's covering, like the angel's like covering his ears, but it just kept, I don't know if he was trying to do something, like explore something, or have some kind of commentary with like the female organ, or because, because it kept showing it from this like pulsating, like cavern. I don't know what he was trying to say, and then it bled all over the house, and I was just like, okay, what are you saying, man? I'm like, Jordan, what are you doing? So I was like, my mind was like right there, but I was so I was like, what are you? I so want to ask him. Like, are you trying to say something, or was it just me? It's like,
and then there was a limitation.
Because when it turns, you can kind of see it like almost like say again?
Is it like a vulva or something?
Yeah, I was like, when it turns, you can kind of see it, and I was just kind of like, man, I'm just a creep. I don't know. Yeah.
Go back and watch the Magic School Bus.
Yes. Okay, all right. That's we'll just end it there. So I don't make a fool of myself.
But if you make a touch with him, let us know.
But things of being in the belly of the whale, Jonah, having a message, not, and then being swallowed up. I think that's a moment for us all. We've been given a message, and I think that there's lots of things that could be interpreted differently.
Like what?
Just the idea that we're all kind of in a moment where we have to reckon with global warming, racial reconciliation,
the virus.
Is even more relevant now, because guess who fist bumped pretty much a beast last week, and everybody's trying to figure that out, right?
Okay. Before we get
I'm saying our leader fist bumped a man who is considered a murderer.
Well, one of my thoughts about Gordy though is the Asian boy was being submissive. He was on his knees, he was looking down, and he was shivering. So when Gordy came up to him, Gordy extended a hand, because that's how, one of the ways chips communicate. It's like, okay, all right, you cool with me. You're submissive. You're not standing on all four, on two legs, being threatening like the dude was who came out.
Why did he go back in there?
I don't know, but the Asian boy did the right thing by staying put, staying down, staying low, and being submissive. And that's why Gordy was like, okay, you cool with me.
Okay, as far as the Jordanville fan, do we rank this? He's would you say he's 3 for 3, 3 great films, or would you say Us is better, Get Out, or?
I haven't seen Us.
You ever seen Us?
Yeah,
I feel like Get Out's a little hard to, I mean.
Us was hardcore.
It's hard to beat Us. Us is like that's a high bar.
Us is up there on the creepiness.
Yeah. Like, if you don't like horror movies,
Yeah.
like I struggle with horror movies. I have to watch them during the day. I can't stay at home by myself the night of and whatnot, so I usually don't watch them unless it's Jordan Peele stuff. But still.
That's a near perfect film for me.
But no,
It's just from a writing standpoint. I mean, he did win the Academy Award for best screenplay.
Get Out. That was horror.
For Get Out. Sorry.
Get Out was one of my favorites, but Us, oh gosh, it's so rich. It's so rich. Like the social commentary behind it is freaking phenomenal. If you have a weak stomach, good luck to you.
Thanks for the word.
And you never want to go to carnival.
I learned my lesson. So I'm a psychologist, and I went and I showed this film to my team, and I did not give proper trigger warning, and I heard about it for the next year.
Yeah, don't watch it with your mother.
So do you bring tea
Don't watch it
with you into your sessions now?
I was speechless when I.
All right, everyone. I want to thank. It's about 6 o'clock now. I want to thank everyone for coming out. Thank you for spending your time with us. Have a wonderful weekend.
Like, I'm out of here.